Hi, I am José Antonio Casas, and I'm going to explain to you the biology fields of study and branches of study of biology. But first of all, we need to know what is biology. And biology is the study of life and living organisms that are in our world. Now, let's start with the fields of study. And biology study the structure, function, growth, evolution, distribution, identification, and taxonomy of the living things. And now that we already know what biology studies, let's going to pass to the branches of study of biology. But first of all, a branch can be defined as a subdivision of something, and in this case we're going to learn the subdivisions of biology. I'm going to say to you some of the branches of biology that in my personal opinion are more interesting, and some of them are anatomy, that is the study of internal structures of living things. Bacteriology, that is the study of bacteria like prokaryotic and eukaryotic bacteria. The biochemistry is the study of chemistry in the study of living things. Now our next topic is how life starts in our planet. There are so many theories that cannot be proved, that's why we know them as theories. But I'm going to explain to you only two that, in my personal opinion, again, are the most relevant. And one is for the religious way, and the other is for a scientific point of view. The first theory, that is the religious way, said that a celestial being created all the universe in 7 days, and in one day he created the universe, the galaxies, all the external of our planet, and then in the sixth day he created the humans by itself. And now, from a scientific point of view, scientifics said that in one point of the past, many years ago again, bacteria that are the micro living organism in our world here right now, starting the process of evolution and start to multiply, and finally the process became from what we are now.
Hello everyone, my name is Victor Daniel Martínez Triviño, and I'm going to introduce you to the characteristics that unify living things. The characteristics that unify living things can be summarized in 8 points. Number 1. The organization. Life in Earth is organized and hierarchized in levels. When we are talking about multicellular organisms, we can talk about different parts. The first are the cells, the basic unit of life. Then, when you mix these cells, you can obtain a tissue. When you mix tissues, you can take an organ. When you mix organs, you can create a system. And when you mix all the systems of the body, you can create an individual organism. The genetic code is the second point. Genetic code is the sequence of nitrogenous bases that combine to produce words, language understandable to all living things. Number 3. The response to stimuli. Living beings correspond to different stimuli such as light, the sound, the temperature, chemical substances, etc. Number 4. The homeostasis is a set of self-regulation phenomena that lead to the conservation of steadiness. Living beings use energy to maintain homeostasis, transform components from outside, and they use them for their benefit. Catabolism is a process where the substances are destroyed for taking the proteins. Anabolism creates the proteins. The proteins create energy for the body, the growth. All living things increase their volume and they grow. Characteristics of the predecessor must be inherited to the successors. That's what we call as reproduction. Reproduction can be classified in 3 types: sexual, asexual, and parasexual. Then we have the last characteristic: adaptation and evolution. The world changes, and with these changes, all living things are forced to evolve in order to survive. If it doesn't happen, the species extincts. The genetic variability from one generation to another makes living things survive. That's why sexual reproduction is very important. In the origin of a species, Charles Darwin postulated the natural selection. This means only the best adapted can survive to the change in its environment. And I'm going to explain you the differences between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. First of all, we have the nucleus. In the eukaryotic cell, it is present. In the other one, it is absent. Then we have the cell type. In an eukaryotic cell, it is usually multicellular. In a prokaryotic cell, it is usually unicellular and it does all the work with one cell. Examples of cells that have eukaryotic cells: plants, animals like starfish or bats or etc. And prokaryotic cell, bacteria and archaea. A generic recombination. We have in the eukaryotic cell we have meiosis and fusion of gametes. And in prokaryotic cell it has partial or unidirectional transfers of DNA. Then we have the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is present, and in a prokaryotic cell it is maybe absent. Then we have the ribosomes. The ribosomes in a eukaryotic cell are larger, and in a prokaryotic cell are smaller. The Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus is present in a eukaryotic cell, and in a prokaryotic cell it is absent. The flagella. The eukaryotic cell doesn't have flagella. In the prokaryotic cell it has flagella. The cell wall. Well, the cell wall only in plant cells and fungi, and in prokaryotic cell it is usually chemically complex. And cell size. Well, in a eukaryotic cell the cell size is 10 to 100 micrometers. Prokaryotic cell it is 1 to 10 micrometers.
Hi everyone, my name is Alma and I will explain you the history of the microscope, the history of the cell, and the cell theory. Well, we will start with the history of the microscope. The glass was invented in the 1st century after Christ, and the Romans start to testing and probing, and they discover that with a lens you can see objects at a great scale. And then someone also discovered that with a lens you can make fire with the sun. And some time later, in 1590, the 2 Dutch spectacle makers, Zacharias Janssen and his father, make a telescope that can observe things at great scale. Then Galileo cared about his inventions, and he started to create by himself. Then Anthony Leeuwenhoek become interested in these lenses, and he started to create his own microscope too, and he create a microscope that can observe objects to 270 times, and also he's known as the father of the microscope. And in the 18th century, scientists were able to correct the mistakes of the microscope, and in the 19th century, it was possible to perfect the microscope. Now I will talk about the history of the cell. The official history begins with Robert Hooke, who in 1665 published the observation he made with a microscope. He observed a cell of a cork, and he saw the cells, vegetal cells of the cork, and he also, and for that he named the cell because he saw rooms of a honeycomb, and he also saw spermatozoa, protozoa, and some bacteria. Although the research continued for many years, it was not until 1830 that Theodor Schwann and Matthias Schleiden proposed what later became the first postulate of the theory cell that I will explain it to you later. In the 19th century was abundant in cellular discoveries. Robert Brown described the nucleus. Johannes Evangelista Porkin introduced the term protoplasm. Now I will talk about the cell theory. Some researchers participate in the theory cell, but the credit is to Schwann, Schleiden, and Bischoff. The postulates are four that say that all living beings are made of cells. The two, that every cell comes from a pre-existing cell. And the three is say that vital functions take place within the cells and only one is enough to make life. And the first say that cells contain all the heredity information for the control of its development, growth, reproduction, and to transmit that information to the next generation. And there's also a fifth postulate that say that the disease begins in the cell. And that's all.
Hi, I'm Leslie, and today I'm going to talk about the cellular transport and also about the levels of organization. The cellular transportation can be classified according to the amount of molecules that pass through the membrane, and this can be classified as active and passive. The first one is the cellular transport active. This process expends energy and also goes against the gradients of the concentration. A good example is the sodium-potassium pump ATPase. The second one is the cellular transport passive. This doesn't expend energy and also goes in favor of the gradients of concentration, and this is classified in simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and finally in ultrafiltration, also known as dialysis. The first one is a simple diffusion. That is a process where the molecules across the lipid bilayer, gases such as oxygen and carbon can pass through the membrane freely, while the ions that have an electrical charge cannot have the opportunity to pass through the membrane. The second one is the facilitated diffusion. The passage of the molecules depends on the integral molecule that this permits that the molecules can pass. These proteins can form channels or complex transporters. And finally is ultrafiltration or dialysis, and this is a process where the water and some solutes pass through the membrane due to the hydrostatic pressure. When the transport is massive, then this transport can be classified as endocytosis and exocytosis. The endocytosis is a process where the cell incorporates material, and also this is classified in three types that are: the pinocytosis is a concept comparable with the drinking of the cells, since this just incorporates the molecules that are in suspension. The phagocytosis that is comparable with the eating of the cells, because through it, the cell can incorporate large quantities of material and even whole cells. And finally, the receiver-mediated endocytosis. In the cell membrane are all the receptors to which specific molecules bind. And the other type of massive transport is the exocytosis. There is a secretion of material produced by the cell. And the exocytosis is divided into types. The first one is the regulated. There is a process that responds to a signal to release its product. And the second one is the constitutive, where the secretion is constant. Now I'm going to talk about the levels of organization. The first one is the atom, that is the basic unit of the matter. The second one is the molecule, that is the combination chemically of two or more atoms. Then there are the organelles, that are a subunit of the cell. The organelles form the cell form the tissues, and the tissues form the organ. A group of organs form the organ system, and a group of organ systems form what is called an organism. A population is made up of individuals of the same species. A grouping of populations and also of abiotic factors is called ecosystems. And finally is the biosphere, that is the total set of ecosystem on Earth.
Hello, I'm Melannie Chávez and I'm going to explain to you the homeostasis. What is the homeostasis? It refers to any process that living things use to maintain fairly stable conditions necessary for survival. It means that it's the way that the body protects itself. What needs to be regulated? It needs the temperature, the pH, the ion concentration, the nutrients, salt, waste products, water, etc. What body system contributes to homeostasis? Well, the circulatory, digestive, respiratory, muscular, and many others. The homeostasis has a circuit that is divided into: first we have the receptors, that are the structures that are sensitive to a specific environment changes. And then we have the effector that receives the signal from the receptor and creates a response to correct the change. Okay, we already know what is the homeostasis, so let's see some examples. One of the most known examples is the glucose. The glucose is a type of sugar that is found in the bloodstream. And then we have the second example, that is when a bacteria or virus that can make you ill get into your body. What homeostasis? Fight against the bacteria before it has the opportunity to make you sick, ensuring that you remain healthy. Finally, I want to add that it's important that people know the great work that the homeostasis does in our bodies. The least we can do to take that work is to take care of ourselves. And thank you, that's it.
Today I'm going to explain health and disease. Everybody has had illness, but what is this and what is health? In the past, health has been taught just as the absence of disease, but now it is taught as a state of physical and mental well-being. On the other hand, diseases are disorders that affect the organism by affecting cells, organs, tissues, and there are different types of disease. They can be grouped into two types: communicable and non-communicable disease. Communicable disease are illness which result from infections um, by microorganisms called pathogens, and they are contagious among the individuals. Um, Bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and fungi all cause disease and may be spread by organisms. An example could be the influenza. Also, the non-communicable disease are illness that are not transferred by people or other organisms. This is a result of an unhealthy lifestyle or inherent factors. An example could be the diabetes. In addition, health in adolescence. The adolescence is the most critical period in which occurs a lot of change, both the psychological and biological. In this, adolescence and young adulthood are healthy time of life. But some of the problems are starts with this age, like the addictions. Well, finally the healthy lifestyle. A healthy lifestyle is a way of living that lower the risk of being seriously or drilling